Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to Out of Memory. Welcome.
Hey, welcome. I am AJ Hamilton.
I'm Christopher Hampson.
And we are here out of memory. We're just here, out
Here
of
we
memory. Here, right here. And you're here too, because we're all together. So this is a podcast where we talk about memories of anything from our past that we think of, that we enjoyed or affected us on a molecular level, and revisit them today to see if they're worth keeping in our memories. This is Out of Memory.
Yeah. This is only our second episode.
That's right. But it's on our way to 1,000. That's my goal.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that the first one was a smash hit and also super long.
Hope y'all enjoyed us babbling.
Yes.
It's great.
But you came back. If you're listening to this, you either skipped it or you came back.
So welcome back or welcome for the first time.
Either way, welcome.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
We're what are you drinking, Chris?
I'm having myself a nice freshly squeezed IPA.
Ooh, lovely.
Yes, it's quite delicious.
Fantastic. I'm having I'm not advertising, but this is delicious. It's an Elijah Craig small batch Kentucky bourbon. So that's
well, that had more words than mine had.
And I'm also ask me what I'm drinking it out of.
Can I guess what you're drinking it out of?
Oh, please do.
All right. Well, I think that most people would guess out of a goblet, but I'm going to say something more obtuse. How about like a glove?
Drinking, emptying each finger at a time. No, I'm drinking.
Isn't that how you measure it?
3 fingers of whiskey.
Yeah. 5 fingers of whiskey.
4 fingers and a thumb of whiskey. I am drinking it out of a Stark Industries shot glass. Or not shot glass, tumbler.
Very nice.
Rocks glass.
Does it glow in the middle?
Well, it does, but now I'm feeling a little bit of the effects from the glow material. I'm pretty sure I'm being poisoned.
Perfect. So it sounds like a pretty official Stark glass.
Absolutely. Well, we're doing this episode in October. And
October.
What's special about October is that it's the start of the spooky time.
It is, yeah. Pretty spooky time. The leaves fall off the trees.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
Why does that happen?
Death all around us.
Death is all around us. Well, I guess technically that could happen mostly in September. But it really gets eerie in October.
Exactly. Not here in LA. It's always dead. Everything is dead. I live in a desert.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's great. It's very hot here. It's very hot. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's all right.
Since this is a show about the past and specifically kind of when we were young in the early 90s, maybe even late 80s, what was Halloween like for you?
Well, it was pretty standard. I lived in a tiny neighborhood. I mean, we both lived in the same neighborhood essentially. I mean, I would dress up in my little plastic mask and tights and whatever I had.
Which mask?
I think I actually had a Superman mask. If you could be more just.
Just go to the cliche store boom, clearance on Superman rubber mask.
And then Superman was on my shirt, which I don't think Superman would wear a shirt with his face on it.
I don't know. I think it's pretty hard not to be self-absorbed if you're actually Superman. Like, there's got to be your own memorabilia out there. And how do you not, like, get yourself shirt
That's so
for
true.
Christmas or something?
I'm pretty sure I've seen Henry Cavill with a Henry Cavill shirt on. But that's just, his pajamas, too. Everything has Henry Cavill on it. No, and then I'd go up and down the street and, a couple of blocks here and there and get a pillowcase full of candy.
Yeah.
And then
you're just going through all the houses so you can get to the one that has the full-size candy bars. And I could still picture what house that was on Redwood Road. Do you have any super memorable costumes that you dressed up as, or maybe any ridiculously?
Well, the most embarrassing one was definitely Peter Pan, because I wore the tights.
Dude, so did I.
When did you do that?
I did that in, I want to say, first grade when I was going to a very Christian school.
Yeah, probably first or second for me too, because you were still young enough that it wasn't weird, but old enough where people could absolutely make fun of you for it.
Well, to be fair, I was not dressed up as Peter Pan. I was actually dressed up as Robin Hood, but they don't allow you to bring weapons to a Christian school. So I was just like, oh, it's Peter Pan. I was like, no, I'm just disarmed.
I'll get my bow staff. And
I was still stealing the whole time.
Of course. No, I one of my favorite outfits. Well, I've had a couple cool ones, but me and my dad built a whole robot, like out of a box, and one of those full ice cream tubs for the head, and then I would just put all these like wires and gizmos on top of the thing. That was, I mean, it was impossible to impress the ladies. I was fourth grade, so I probably wasn't anyway, but it was a lot of work put into it, so I was pretty proud of that. How about you?
Yeah, definitely most embarrassing was my Robin Hood called Peter Pan. I want to say that, I mean, it wasn't really Halloween, but when I first started going to school in our town, they had it was like an Inside Out themed day. And like I went a little overboard and wore like underwear like on my head, but I got the date wrong, so I showed up with all this crap on me. And immediately had to get back in the car and like go home and change.
Wait, were you driving a car at the time?
No, I was dropped off by my stepdad, who was not the most understanding guy. So he was pretty pissed off. He had to be late to take me home to take the underwear off my face. Sure. And I'd even like put like
glue it to it?
No, but I did try to wear it like a Spider-Man mask, and like I paper clipped like the crotch area together to pinch it closer for the nose part so I could properly see through the leggings.
Now let me ask you,
it was clean.
Did you have underwear on as well? Like in the proper place? No, those were your.
It was Inside Out day.
That's the problem.
No, I wore a shirt down there, so there was obviously the neck hole exposing me.
Folded up like a diaper.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's horrifying. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
You know what else was horrifying?
What's that?
Was did you ever, when you were younger, read those scary stories to tell in the dark?
Oh my God,
books?
Absolutely.
That's good, because that's what this episode's about.
That's an amazing transition.
How do you like that segue?
That is, I'm applauding you. You could hear it if I had it mic'd, my hands mic'd, but yes, that's amazing.
I'm hoping to win a Segway for that, maybe.
It's just a small Segway that you roll around on. My God, those were horrifying.
Yeah. I still to this day think of, if not some of the stories, every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Definitely some of the imagery. The imagery was
Jesus,
terrifying.
Well, that was who was that by? The illustrations were Stephen Gammell, right?
Stephen Gammell, yeah, and the books were written by Alvin Schwartz.
Okay,
who's unfortunately not with us anymore.
Yeah, he died a couple of years ago.
Back in '92, to make the stories even scarier.
Whoa.
Okay, so too soon. Sorry.
Well,
recent.
He's haunting us still. I think if
he
it's,
is. He really is.
I think if it was last century or as it was last millennium, you can make fun of the dead. That's fine. Wow. I think we're out of the. Yeah, you're fine.
I think that's, I don't know. It might be a little bit of a faux pas. As Alvin Schwartz did serve in the Navy, so we do thank him for his service and for keeping us awake at night.
Did you read these under the covers? As
no,
like
God, no.
Rebellion? No.
Honestly, like I probably read one story by myself, but we had like a group of like really, we were the outcasts in the back of the bus for the summers that I went to the YMCA and long bus rides to wherever we were going that day. But these other two guys, they owned these books, and so they would either just recant them and just like show these awful images, or you know they would just read them out loud or like read the worst part of them.
Of course. I remember I was an avid reader, and when I mean these came out before we were born, actually. The first book, at least, it came out in 1981. The second, there were actually three of them. He had one that was in 1984, my birth year, yours too. What am I saying? And then one a year before he died, which was Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones.
They did though.
They absolutely chilled. I read a bunch of scary stories back in the day, and for some reason it was self-torture because I would read them under my covers. I would read these. I would read Tales for the Midnight Hour or something like scary. I don't know what the other ones were. Goosebumps, which, you know, in hindsight weren't that scary. But then there was Are You Afraid of the Dark? Stuff like that. Did you ever read or tell scary stories around the campfire?
No. But I mean, I'd say I think it's fair to kind of set the stage of like what was considered to be scary back then. And I think you kind of started to Goosebumps, widely read by yourself and myself and lots of other people that love the same book over and over again, just with different monsters. Not
Thanks,
too scary. It was he knew what he was doing. Not scary.
Cashing them checks.
Would you say that Are You Afraid of the Dark, the show on Nickelodeon, was scary?
It was scary at times, and the younger you watched it, obviously the scarier it was. Because did you ever get like the weeks or the weekends where HBO was, or Showtime or something, were free, and you would see Tales from the Crypt? Because that was creepier than anything.
Okay, I will say that, yes, that let's say that's like our 10. Like, did you see anything scarier than that when you were young?
No.
I might have seen Aliens. Yeah, but you know, I still put that in the same category. I'm going to say Aliens 10, but then right below it, like a 9 was Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
So if we could use that as a scale, where would you say that these books kind of ranked for maybe sticking with you or keeping you up at night?
These were horrifying in a way that was it was just, I don't know. It was definitely a combination of the visuals and the story, but I would say, I mean, they're up there. It's like an 8. I mean, these because at the time I can't imagine that I was reading them any younger than 7 or 8, which was just foolish. But but no,
who was watching what books you were reading? Well, actually, I will say though the covers are misleading. Oh. The covers are a lot gentler than what's actually inside of them.
Not the one I'm looking at. This one has the creepy. It's the original one. It's got this huge skull-like face on it, growing out of what looks like half of a farm and half of a cemetery. It has a blue sort of cut down the middle of its head. Its mouth and nose are red, like it's kind of like a horrifying clown, and it's smoking a pipe. None of that seems acceptable for an 8-year-old.
No, I know it doesn't, but does it help that he's painted a little bit like a clown and he's smiling?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's not growling at you. He seems pretty content growing out of the ground. That's fine.
Well, compare that, though, to some of the other images in the book, though.
That's true. That's very true. I mean, yeah, parents flip through the books before you see. I mean, good Lord, there are some death masks in this that are just. I mean, I remember being afraid to turn the page.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that other series, Tales for the Midnight Hour. That's what it was called. They didn't have pictures in them, so that came.
Big mistake.
Yeah, that came purely from the reading of it, and I actually read a couple of those a few days ago, and those are horrifying too. But a combination of this book and those were just the things my nightmares were made out of. Also, Freddy Krueger. But
yeah. You know what? Sorry.
Yes, go.
I did see Freddy Krueger once at a friend's house. He showed me like the worst parts, and yeah, so that hits a 10. Also, that's right up there with Alien. That kept me awake at night. That was definitely nightmare worthy.
I was pretty sure that one of my jackets was Freddy Krueger for a while, and I would ask my dad to come in and take the jacket out because it felt too much like when the lights went out. That was definitely Freddy over there. Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Well, the movies just did a good job of like making anything come to life and just like be awful and horrifying.
Pretty much. By the way, I just watched New Nightmare. Do you remember that? It was the one where it was about the woman who played Nancy from the original one and her career, and that Robert Englund was actually a character in the movie, and also Freddy was a character in the movie, and they were
Holy shit!
It
No,
was so meta. It was like
yeah.
I think it was the 7th one. I'm pretty sure, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Wes Craven's a crazy bastard.
Wes Craven is a character too. It's bizarre.
Is he played by Wes Craven?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's an amazing movie. You got to check it out. But no, all that stuff just haunted us. But scary.
Totally.
What are your recollections of scary stories to tell in the dark?
So obviously we talked about these a lot, and in the daytime, and they were still chilling. And there's, if I think back to like what sticks out, there's definitely a few stories.
Yeah.
And there are probably like 30 images that I can pull up in my head, and they're unsettling. They really are.
Oh, very much so.
Just going back real quick to just the series itself.
Yeah.
It was one of the most challenged books to include in the library or not for a decade, for that whole decade
really?
of the 90s. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
If we are to believe what we read on the internet.
Well, naturally, but
but honestly, like looking at some of these images, I totally get it. And that book for the writing level should belong in a children's section.
Should or shouldn't?
Should.
Like,
Let me ask you this.
It's very
like,
simple.
If you take those horrifying images out of the book,
yes,
are the stories as scary?
No, they're they're actually not. There's, if I remember correctly, and I think I read these a few years ago, but I don't really remember them perfectly, obviously. But there's a couple that are a bit tamer than I remembered as being as a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't read the whole book. I picked it up and I flipped through it. But it's very I don't know. What about you? Would you give this to your daughter? That's a question.
Oh. Hell no. I have enough trouble getting my daughter to go upstairs by herself to her room full of just like pink and stuffed unicorns and just like the happiest things
ever. It's a
ever.
cloud.
Nothing has ever
sleeps in a cloud.
been scary up there. And
no.
From as far as I know, she hasn't seen anything scary like Freddy Krueger or anything like that. But these images are, I wouldn't even necessarily say that they are graphic, even to today's standard, where you don't see like people's entrails spilling out everywhere.
Oh no!
But the artist Stephen Gammell. I mean, he's just. I have to say, like he is a master of what he does, because these are the most unsettling things that I've seen. And if I were to look at them today, they're still really unsettling, and just you feel uneasy when you look at a lot of these.
The horrifying part of it is, I think, partially there is the unknown, because he draws on a white canvas, and it's sort of just certain things floating in an unknown area, but also they're sort of unraveling. You know, everything looks like it's just fallen apart, like it's like there's a rotting book almost.
Pretty much.
It's very scary, and you know that you can't really tell if stuff is blood or just stains or something like that in some of the pictures. But there's this one. It's just an old guy in a wide-brimmed hat. The wide-brimmed hat is sort of sloping down. You can't tell if he has teeth or not, but everything, all of his clothes are sort of, you can't tell if they're tatters or they're the symbiote from Venom. And then one foot is very small, and then the other foot is just, it's large and clawed. And then if you look even closer, there is, we'll put links to these pictures in the description, but the bigger one looks like you can see through it, and there's a skeleton. You can sort of see the bone. I don't know. And the hands are all clawed and spooky as hell. Ugh.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I mean, again, like I wasn't reading a lot of these.
Yeah.
But I was definitely staring at the picture the whole time when somebody was reading it, and maybe that was the worst part.
Well, you almost come up with another story. It could be these stories could, or these illustrations could be stories in themselves. You just look at them and you're like, that person jumping out at me. That's totally all that's scary about this.
Totally.
But
what besides the clawed farmer, what stories stick out the most to you?
Well, there was definitely one about cats that was spooky to me, and I think I'm looking at it.
Totally.
It's I think it's called Wait for Martin. It was called Wait for Martin. Wait till Martin gets here, or something like that. Yeah, it was.
And we all know that the waiting is the hardest part.
I guess. You know, they sing about that, but I don't necessarily agree. I think when the scary things happen, that's probably the worst part. And of course, oh wait, just found it. There's 3 cats. Wait till Martin comes. Yeah, I remember that being horrifying, and I think there was one about a hook that I did not like.
A man with a hook?
Probably. I mean, I don't think it was that original one about, an escaped asylum inmate sneaks up behind them, and then they hear a scratching on the door. I think it's... Oh, no, it is. It is. It's definitely that.
It's the exact same one. He took it and he owned it.
He plucked it out of obscurity.
Way to go, Alvin.
I wanted to talk about there is one called the Toe or something like that, I want to say, or no, the new
toe?
horse. That was horrifying too, I think. Anyway, which ones stand out to you?
So right away, I mean, the one that I'll never forget, and I think about it like often, especially if I get like any kind of blemish on my face. There was a story of a girl who had like a zit on her face, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like her mother told her, like, don't mess with that zit. And so she left it alone, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, like she like washed her face or something like that, or like she was like trying to clean it up, and then like it burst, and like 1,000 like disgusting spiders came out of her face. And that's what the illustration is. It's just like, it's not only like this awful looking girl with spiders coming out of her face, but like everything about it is unsettling. Even if she didn't have spiders coming out of her face, like I don't think I could look at a person like this. Her face looks like it's kind of like melting. She just has a look of like, I don't know, gross horror on her face. Like she's either frightened herself or is going to attack me because I look delicious.
Well, she's gotten the taste for blood from the spiders, I think. Yes.
Yeah, right. She's one of them now. There was that, and there was one about like a I want to say it was called like Wolf Mother or something like that, or She Wolf. I don't even remember how it went, but just like the picture of this lady or woman, she didn't even look like a wolf. She just had kind of like hair everywhere, but the way that her body is like postured, how she's kind of like on all fours, super unsettling. She has almost like branches growing out of her, and I don't know, that's what a lot of this artwork was. It was just, I don't know, the beginning of I almost said torture porn, but that's not right.
Yeah,
something like that line though.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Speaking of this illustration, two things. One, even the stuff that Stephen Gammell did, check it out. There's like, there's a book called Song and Dance Man. Everything that he has is still kind of creepy. You know, it's still got that loose feeling about it where everything could kind of disintegrate, you know, into rotting flesh on the next page if he wanted to. There's one called Mudkin.
It's all still very unsettling.
It's ethereal, amorphous kind of, you know, just like, well, in the one that I'm looking at, he's standing on this cliff almost that kind of looks like the sidewalk at the edge of the end of the world. Is it?
Oh,
Shel Silverstein,
like
yeah,
Shel
and
Silverstein.
He's talking to this girl who meets him, and he's I think she says, "Hi, what's your name?" And then all there is in place of what he says is kind of shit stains. Just like he's like a little mud creature, and it's like he just, you know, ran his mud finger across the line, and that was what he said. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, yes. It's like he just talks shit all the time. That's what it looks like on the page.
She answers him as if she just understood the, like she's like he's R2-D2 or Chewbacca or something like that, where nobody else, you know, they're not even giving us subtitles, but expositional.
Yeah, you don't need it apparently. Like I don't know if you even want to know what he's saying. If we were to look at a list of his works, only half of it really kind of looks like it's like scary stuff. And this guy is definitely like a master of surreal horror illustration. But the other half is all like children's stories. Like I want to say that he is also really well known for that Song and Dance Man book, which also is terrifying looking.
The funny thing is, I don't know when all of these books were made, the Song and Dance Man and different stuff like that. But who would have thought that they, you know, you're reading through scary stories and you're like, you know what this guy would be great for? Kids work. You know, like, why? What are you? What's your jump in logic there?
My kid loves his books. That's all that he talks about to his therapist.
Another thing that we were finding when we were searching Stephen Gammell was the tattoos.
Yeah, if you can't get these out of your head, you might as well.
I mean,
put them on your body.
Owning it.
Scar everybody else, and never take a lover. Yeah, but I mean, some of these aren't even in like subtle places. Like I don't even know what subtle place I would want this. But this is like a full back mural of like some of the more horrifying faces.
And I mean, maybe on your butt, right? Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
maybe
only because I wouldn't have to see it.
You know what would be really sexy is a tramp stamp of a decaying corpse. You know, I mean, it would be a specific type of person.
But what if it's kind of inviting? Like it's that giant clown skull with the corncob
sort of winking.
He's smiling at you a little bit.
Hey,
give me the fish
maybe
eye.
She's into it. Why not you try? Are you a fan of Insane Clown Posse? Oh God, I just found the one with the that you were talking about with the girl and the acne and all of the spiders coming out. God, that is horrifying.
Well, it turns out that all acne is actually just spiders. So make sure you pop your sits.
With Raid. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't even remember the stories very well, and I don't think that any of them had any kind of like moral to them. Like, I feel like these are supposed to be from folklore, but I don't think that this follows the same spirit where it's like folklore was there to like scare kids into having like life lessons. This was just to scare children.
Wasn't that German one about biting your thumbs or else the thumbkin will come and
Thumbkin?
I don't know, bite your thumb off or something weird thing like that. No, these were just sort of jump scares or leave a queasy feeling in your stomach, something like that.
Yeah, I want to see Disney take one of these and put some real shine on it. I don't think you can.
I gotta tell you, I was looking it up, and they optioned it. Scary stories to tell in the dark in about 2013. If I can find it, I think CBS acquired the series.
No.
Yes, and they had intent.
But did they do anything with it?
Well, they in 2016 it was announced that Guillermo del Toro would develop the project.
Ooh, you know what?
I would love to see that.
That's fucking perfect.
Right? Well, the interesting thing about funny that it's CBS Films, because just recently I was watching this show called or on a DVD called Tales from the Dark Side. And it took place between 1983 and 88. And
dude, I totally watched some of those.
Remember
which
those?
I want to say were on like Showtime or something.
Yeah.
And super late at night because they had boobies every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. I just watched the first 3 or 4 episodes because I picked them up at Best Buy, and damn if they're not good. For the time, of course. You know, there's not superb CGI effects or anything like that. It's all pretty practical, but it's still the storytelling. And that's, I think, the point to the... Well, speaking of storytelling, they made audiobooks out of the scary stories to tell in the dark as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to say the voice actor that they got to do the narration,
Yes.
George Irving.
Yeah.
He does a great job for kind of the tone that you would think for that time it would sound like.
It kind of sounds like the narrator in the haunted house at Disneyland.
Totally.
Right?
It's definitely a Haunted Mansion guy.
Haunted Mansion, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, there's kind of a wink and a nod to this. I randomly clicked on one of the YouTube clips of him doing this, and there is a part where certain stories were meant to have a scare at the end, but for the
to like fuck with your friend or something.
friend, yeah, exactly. And so it would
grab their hair really hard at the part where you say the hair grabber grabs the
exactly. And he said it. He didn't just end with, and it reached out towards you. Now, stamp your foot really loud and point at your best friend right across from you. It was like, oh, that sort of took the steam out of it. That's a shame. But
Poor form.
But it was.
Hey, he got paid to read every word.
Oh my goodness, yes, and it was actually fascinating to hear them because they're very quick, they're very short, they're shorter than I really remembered. You know, I wanted to come into it, and as we go, we're going to try to keep as I guess virginal to the modern experience of this stuff, but in research you have to sort of bend that rule. But we haven't read most if any stories. I don't think you've read any of the stories recently, have you?
God no. I love sleeping. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Just going back real quick to the audio book.
Please do.
So, Haunted Mansion guy who reads it. Do you think that this works for you, or do you think it kind of takes away from it? Well, obviously, the stamp your foot and point like a jackass at your your friend.
If it were not for that, it's a great tone for it. It actually it very much feels. Look it up. George S. Irving reading this stuff. Also, I just wanted to say he played. He did a lot of voiceover work, and he actually worked with this this company called Rankin and Bass, and they did
my favorite fishing company.
Oh, lovely! They got the big ones. It was about this big and this horrifying. No, they actually were the people behind the stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with Burl Ives. Pinocchio's Christmas. He worked on. He was George Irving.
Pinocchio's Christmas.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, but it was in the same vein as the Rudolph stop motion, and it was he played Geppetto, and I think he was in The Year Without a Santa Claus. And funny enough, and this only means anything to Chris and I, and the people who took fantasy and science fiction English in senior year. Rankin and Bass were also behind the animated version of Return of the King.
And the Kennedy assassination.
They created that magic bullet. It was actually stop motion, guys. What?
That's how they did it. That was movie magic bullet.
See, Oliver Stone.
I will also say that Pinocchio is one of my other childhood horrors.
Oh yeah, no. When they get,
it's just a terrifying movie. It's awful.
They get to the island for
the island of bad donkey children,
and then start. There's nothing they can do. And if you think back to it, if it percolates enough in your child mind, nothing happens to save those children.
No, they're just donkey slaves forever being whipped by that
Stromboli.
Yeah,
or
no, it was a Stromboli.
No, Stromboli kidnapped them.
If that was
right.
Stromboli wanted to take him on the road to make money for him forever, and then threatened to chop him up in a firewood. But he escaped him.
Yeah,
it was some other. You know what? Honestly, it might have been some guy related to Stromboli because he was probably the same.
They were all within the
reference actor that they had at Disney.
They were all in the black market.
Big fat Italian guy. Please.
They were all in the black market for young children. Sex trafficking, essentially. Right? No. Maybe not.
With donkeys.
There's a lot of bestiality in Italy back then.
Everyone just trying to grab some ass.
Boom. Segue. No.
To asses.
To asses.
What's the scariest ass you've ever seen?
I actually, these stories actually remind me of this new phenomenon that I've seen on the internet. They're called 2-sentence scary stories. Have you heard of these? Okay,
I have.
And I just wanted to read a couple of them because they're sort of that twist at the end, and it's not necessarily a moral, but it's sort of just to curl your spine a little bit. Okay, I really like this one. You hear your mom calling you into the kitchen. As you are heading down the stairs, you hear a whisper from the closet saying, "Don't go down there, honey. I heard it too."
That's good.
Ooh.
That's good. I
yeah,
like that.
Right? You want to read one?
Yeah. Pass me that.
Yep, here you are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll cut that out. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
My wife woke me up last night to tell me there was an intruder in her house. She was murdered by an intruder 2 years ago.
Ooh.
Chilling.
She's still hanging out. My baby loves to point and stare at me. I finally realized she was pointing behind me.
Ooh. I really do like this one sentence one that's just, I saw my reflection blink.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so creepy.
It's creepy if you're in the dark alone at home. Well, I guess anywhere.
Yeah,
And you just think about it for way too long. Still, if it had like a horrifying illustration to go with it.
Oh, yeah. For it. Oh, I just wanted to read some of the other stories, the titles that Alvin Schwartz wrote.
Yeah.
So he did the Scary Story series and stuff. But he also did some great titled things. Stories to Tell a Cat. You know, for those lonely women who have, or, you know, I suppose you could tell many cats. But
oh, sorry. I thought that was still the title of the book.
No, it's Stories to Tell a Cat. And that is for the lonely women at home who will never have children and have replaced that with 15 cats.
So they're all scary stories.
Absolutely. There's a couple more Tales of Trickery from the Land of Spoof. That actually sounds kind of fun. All of Our Noses Are Here and Other Noodle Tales.
I like Cat's Elbow and Other Secret Languages.
Fat Man in a Fur Coat. Fat guy in a little coat. Fat Man in a Fur Coat and Other Bear Stories. Now, just reading that title, did this fat man get confused for a bear, and like bears invited him into their house, and then he had to keep up the facade, and he kept going through it, and eventually he was ingratiated into their house, and he married their daughter, and they had mutant bear human babies, and then on the date
no she couldn't bear children.
Fuck up my attempt at attempt at comedy, and then you throw a pun in there that is better than anything that I said.
Please,
God, I don't know. I was gonna say on the day that she had the children, it's revealed, and they have to go on Maury, and they're like, no, this is the father. He is a man, and he takes the thing off, and they maul everyone, including Maury.
I thought you were going to say a horse.
What about this flapdoodle? Pure nonsense from American folklore.
I don't know if this Alvin Schwartz guy liked just writing nonsensical things or just had a short attention span. It was just like, and there's no rhyme or reason or moral to it. It's just, this is what I have done, and it's out there in the world now. Much like this podcast.
Pretty much. I think I'm pretty sure he was attempting to be a little like a Dr. Seuss, but he was on too many drugs. Maybe? I don't know. Adderall. Yeah. Adderall's a hell of a drug. One of his things is called chin music. Tall talk and other talk. Now, in my experience, chin music was used to refer to a baseball hitting a batter's chin.
Oh, really?
Huh. Yeah. But then I looked it up, and it is idle chatter as well. So I don't know. This guy was clearly from another era, you know?
Yeah, well, he saw some things in the war, maybe. I don't know. He served in the Navy. I don't know if he actually fought in the wars.
He might have just been on an island.
What I want to know is what happened to this illustrator that caused him to just like have to draw things that were unsettling no matter what. All right, fine. If it's a kid's book, I'll add some color to it. But otherwise, it's black and white, and it's going to be unsettling as hell.
Well, yeah, I would love to know more about Stephen Gammell. And also how these guys got together too, because they're match made in hell, clearly.
Yeah.
But some amazing work that they did. Can you imagine essentially being the source of nightmares for a whole generation or two? Because it really it's known I mean, I've never met a person that I've talked to that didn't know this book. It's such a rare It's such a rarity that you read a book as a child and then you can, unless it's like Seuss or something like that, or R.L. Stein or something, that you can point to and say, this shaped my childhood. And
Even
then,
girl on the couch is nodding. She knows what we're talking
exactly. She is of our ilk. Absolutely. But yeah.
about. Now she's shaking her head. She is not of our ilk.
That's, I mean, to be fair to her, nobody really wants to be a part of our ilk. So
It's ilk of agnesium.
Ooh. What?
So
Yeah.
looking at Stephen Gammell's
Yes, sir.
works, he did just trying to piece together how maybe he got connected to Alvin
Yes.
Schwartz. He had quite a few scary books. It seems like he might have written for or illustrated for. One just called Ghosts.
Ghosts.
Meet Werewolf. Ghost of Tilly Jean Cassaway. And then one in 1980 called...
No, go ahead.
One in 1980 called Terrible Things, an allegory of the Holocaust. I'm pretty sure as soon as Alvin Schwartz, for his children's book, saw that, was like, oh, this guy, I want this guy to illustrate for me.
Would say that Terrible Things is not even an allegory for the Holocaust. I think it is Terrible Things.
Terrible Things, an understatement of the Holocaust.
I mean, because there's like Mouse, M-A-U-S, that is, I would say, an allegory for the Holocaust.
I thought that
Or
was,
metaphors.
it was pronounced Mossies, like, kind of like Nazis. Maybe I'm
no,
wrong.
it's actually
I don't
the
know.
German spelling of mouse. Mouse.
Oh, is it?
Mouse. You know.
And did I would venture to guess the Germans also tried to exterminate
They
mice
did
as
not.
well.
They did not love them. They made a lot of them wear tiny cheese-shaped armbands. Is that too much?
That might be going to
It's fine. Keep it in.
Okay.
Wait, he did Terrible Things, an allegory of the Holocaust, came out in 1989 too. I hope that was not a sequel, because it's not a sequel. Maybe it was a re.
Well, hey, disclaimer: I'm looking at Wikipedia, so you know.
Take that with a side of Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I think
Hey,
I will. I think we should pause for
Cheers
that.
to that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is that? I mean, really, that's all that I can recall, and just from light research that I have before we would maybe break to actually go through these books and read some of them and reassess and come back.
I would love to do that, and maybe we'll listen to some of the audiobooks spoken by George Irving.
Now stomp your foot and point at your friend, and we'll be right back.
Out of memory.
Okay, and we're back. We
We
survived the night.
We indeed did. Oh, I regret reading these under my covers. I really do.
Yeah, so everyone at home understands what just happened to them. So AJ and I went away. We got under the covers with our flashlights and our books, and we read several of these stories to re-experience what it was like to go through
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
scary stories to tell in the dark.
We had a little bit of a sleepover. Got into our little jammy jams and slid under the covers and
Braided some hair.
that's gossiped about boys. That's what they do. Compared bra sizes, I think.
Yeah, and fairly similar bra sizes. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
A minus. Oh, well, I close enough.
Mine's an F. Just that's
Mine's a
that's
D
the
flat.
that's the rating. It's horrible. So yeah, I legitimately did read these in my bed with a flashlight.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yes. Yeah.
pretty authentic.
I just wanted to feel that creepiness again. I cheated. I used my phone flashlight, which killed my battery, but I read about half of one of the books. Like, you can't read all 3 of these books at night under, without, locking the door and getting your wampum stick out to hit any ghosts that might come at you. But what was your initial reaction to reading these again?
So I feel like the images still hold up as being largely unsettling.
Horrifying.
And I could easily slip into my memory of like riding on the school bus and talking about these stories with my friends and flipping through the book and mainly staring at the pictures and them kind of just summarizing some of the stories, because reading some of these stories, I don't want to say that some of them were, I don't know, disappointing or kind of felt a little lazy,
a little corny.
Yeah,
a little corny,
but there's definitely seems to be kind of like a linear path that these follow, where I had like a string of, I want to say 4 or 5 that had very similar themes from one to the other, where it was like somebody died and then somebody was buried alive, and then another one was about a corpse coming back to life, and then another one was about like killing somebody, and it just, they all seem to kind of string together. So I don't know if like when the author was writing these, if he was just like had a side thought and just like, ooh, I'm gonna put that on the side and that'll be my next one.
Well, I think he actually groups them together. He does. There's like in the third one that I read, there's one section called When Death Arrives. So all of them are sort of running together. So I know what you mean. Like you almost can't read this book linearly, or else it's not going to have the same effect. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, maybe skipping around, and and it's possible the books are set up that way, because I was reading an ebook online.
Okay, gotcha.
I was cheating even further because my book was backlit.
Hey, that can be spooky in its own way. That's fine. I loved the imagery still. The imagery actually really creeped me out on this one that I read called Harold, and I'm not going to read it, but it's this dude. It's these 2 dudes, and they are they're cowhands or something like that, and they make this little scarecrow. And they make it to look like this guy named Harold, this farmer that they hate.
That everybody hates. Freaking Harold.
Such a dick. Fucking asshole. And let's make a doll-sized man, they say. And it's like, no, dude, that's a scarecrow. Just say it. But as
that's
I
a farmer's
was reading
doll,
it,
okay? You don't make
farmer doll.
That's like a farmer's doll.
It's not just a scarecrow. It's for those late nights when you're scared and alone and lonely, and you just need some sort of companion. But so they
never felt so good.
So they would make fun of the doll. They would throw their empty food things at him and stuff like that. And so
did this make this a less effective scarecrow? Like the crows saw the humans like treating it poorly, and the crows are just like, oh well, fuck that guy.
No respect.
I'm gonna eat corn right in front of him. Fucking Harold.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield of scarecrows. No respect. No respect. But so and in the end, it starts growing, and it starts smiling and weird things like that. And then at the end, they're like, I think it might be alive, and so let's ride away from it. And then one of them doesn't come back, and then it sees Harold on top of the hut that they're living in, spreading some skin across the hut.
Interesting. Holy crap. And actually, that's dark as hell.
It was horrifying. And the thing that made it better, actually, like, this was one of the better stories, I think, that I read last night. And it's this almost Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre sewed together skin on the scarecrow.
Neat.
And it's legs are spread
I see
wide.
It. Yes,
have you seen that one?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Oh
at that.
my god, it's a great image, and I mean he must have done this because my eye just kept darting back and forth while I was reading through the story to the image.
Yes.
And it's, oh God, it was great. And I got to sleep eventually, but I fell asleep reading these stories, and I was so lucky to not have had nightmares, I think, even at 33.
Yeah, that's, and I think we talked about this before the break. The images enhance the story so much that I think without them, they kind of, I wouldn't say fall flat, but I think a lot of them are just that much more campy.
Oh, yeah.
I would even say that reading through these, I felt like I could categorize these stories into kind of three types, where there is there's quick ones that were just you kind of could have done without. There were stories that were generally creepy, kind of like Harold, where I think they would do okay standing alone, maybe at a campfire or something.
Very much so.
And then there were ones that they seemed like they started out as kind of quick ones, and then they were pretty mild, and then at the end, just like something really horrible happens. There's one that was called Oh Susanna or something like that.
All right.
And like these two girls, sisters, are trying to go to sleep, and every time the light goes off, one of the sisters hears her like somebody singing Oh Susanna, and she keeps telling her sister, like, shut up, like, go to sleep. I'm trying to get some sleep. And so she finally at the end, like, flicks on the light and like tears back the covers from her sister's bed, and her sister is laying there but has no head. And that's pretty much it. That's how it ends. I just like reading along like oh God.
sort of like shock value. It wasn't necessarily derived from the story. It was just like story, horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the book equivalent of a jump scare.
Yeah. I mean, it's not torture porn at all, or a gore porn.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the gore is very, very limited, I would say.
As far as the story goes, yeah. If you look at the illustrations, I mean, that's gore.
And then your imagination adds a whole level of gore.
Sure.
There's another one called Just Delicious, where this woman has a very abusive husband, and he expects lunch every single day, and she comes home from the shop with a nice cut of liver, which, who thinks liver tastes good?
Actually,
nobody.
I kind of do think liver tastes good.
You're a fool. But she brings it home and she cooks it up. She cuts a tiny little piece off and she's like, that is just delicious. That is just, and she keeps eating it until it's all gone and there's nothing left for her husband. And of course, at this time, whenever these stories take place, he's going to come home and whip her with a belt.
Jesus, really?
Like a horrible person. Yeah, no, that's the indication that he's a very evil man and that he will probably physically harm this woman if she doesn't have some sort of meat.
The 90s were a different era.
The 80s. This last one. Well,
I lumped it all together.
I'll finish this story and then we'll talk about the origins of some of these stories. She remembers, we live next to a church, and there's this woman on display in her casket. ... And then you flip the page, and then the ghost of this woman that died, she comes and says, "Who has my liver? Who has my liver? Who has my liver?" And then she's like, "It was him." And she then he screams and screams, and that's one of those things where I think if you're around the what's it called, the campfire, you point at your best friend, you say, "It was him!"
Yeah.
And everybody screams and has a good time and drinks some of that Schlitz. Awful
Schlitz
beer
while you're telling ghost stories.
Oh, absolutely. 9 or 10 years old. Absolutely. That's all we could get.
I did have a funny experience reading these books, because there was a couple of stories that I read, and I thought that they were decent, that they would hold up on their own. And so I did go back to the audiobook version that's on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
That's read by George S. Irving.
Yeah.
And there must be something that happens in your brain while reading, because like going back and actually reading it word for word, my brain, I think, just to make it better for myself, kind of idealizes some things, whether it's just tonality, or it's how I'm picturing things, or it's even like what the tone of voice is.
Yeah.
But there's this guy goes and takes everything very literally and goes way over the top. I don't know who was directing this, but definitely ruined some of the stories for me that I thought were good.
Yeah. Just how in what way did he ruin them? Just he was like reading them monotone, or just not. No, not in the way that you imagine.
Not in the way I imagine, but not in the way I imagine anybody reading any kind of book like this, where he made it kind of very comical, where I was laughing out loud at the way that he was presenting this. But it definitely made it far more, I guess, acceptable for children.
Because
it took away all the creep factor, which was a shame.
Interesting. Have you ever listened to? Have you ever gone on YouTube and just looked up scary stories, people reading scary stories?
No.
It's fascinating stuff. Me and my girlfriend look them up from time to time when we're driving the 5 from NorCal to SoCal every once in a while, especially if it's at night. And there's some creepypasta ones. There's some really creepypasta. It's something on Reddit where people just write in with their spooky shit. But every once in a while, usually it's kind of like that, where it's a bad narrator, and it's not necessarily spooky. It's just read as almost a news story or something like that. But there was this one that was horrifyingly creepy. This one person was walking home one night, and they see a person all the way at the other end of the street, and they appear to be kicking. They're like kicking high, and they're like, "Oh, that's really interesting." This person is walking home, and they're like kind of dancing. They must be just like drunk or silly or something like that. And they're walking up the street towards this person on the other side of the street. And as they get closer, they can see it's this man, sort of dressed all in white, and he's smiling. And he's just smiling and kicking and sort of not looking at anything. And it just, the way it was read, and he's the kicking man stops and then turns towards the person as they're parallel. And oh God, I can't describe it right here, but
it's horrifying.
A person,
you brought this up on this podcast.
You're welcome. This is the horror stories out of memory. But yeah, no, it's the way they read it, and just the circumstances were horrifying. It was great. It's definitely a skill that someone needs to tell a proper scary story. Sure. Is what my point is, kind of.
And I think it's probably subjective, but I get more value out of things that are genuinely creepy when I'm reading something, as opposed to somebody trying to be like horrifying, because I don't feel like it comes across a lot in books.
So it kind of has to be in the writing then.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Obviously.
And let me ask you this: as a voice actor, I've read a lot of books, and most of which are audiobooks. So I've experienced a lot of people reading to me. Where do you fall on the issue of if it's a male voice actor who's telling the story, doing a woman's voice?
Or vice versa?
Or vice versa, sure. Sure. Where do you fall with that? Because for some people it ruins it, some people are okay with it.
It absolutely has to be a quality voice actor, obviously. But it doesn't take me out of it, honestly. If the person does it subtly enough, or doesn't try to do... Here's the thing. When you can intimate that it is you can understand that it is a female speaking without it having to go up like this, you know. The person doesn't have to be a cartoon of a female, I think. And if they're doing it subtly, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Where do you fall?
No, and I totally agree. And you and I have listened to the Game of Thrones audiobooks
With Roy Dotrice.
Yeah, yes. With Roy Dotrice, who is a master of just voice acting and reading stories. But
he actually won an award for how many voices he did in those books.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
He goes about it in such a way where when he reads like a female voice like Cersei, you know that it's Cersei the way that he's doing it. And he doesn't like make it like a feminine voice. He I don't know, he just gives it that tonality that is true to the character.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's all about character. He knows who she is, and that's the fascinating thing about him keeping all of those characters in his mind at once, is that he remembers who they are as a person, not necessarily as a voice.
Yeah.
So that's the important part of it.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, no, I'm incredibly impressed by him, and may he live long and prosper. He's an amazing dude.
Yes, Nanu. So we've gone through. We've read some of these books, some of these stories rather, and now I think we're gonna read a couple of them, or maybe just one each. Maybe the one that you found the best, or maybe stuck out to you as far as re-experiencing this book.
Mm-hmm. All right, this one actually isn't the most horrifying one to me, but I think it's one of the few that I did remember vividly. All right, here it is. It's called Like Cat's Eyes. As Jim Brand lay dying, his wife left him with his nurse and went into the next room to rest. She sat in the dark, staring into the night. Suddenly, Mrs. Brand saw headlights coming rapidly up the driveway. Oh no, she thought, I don't want visitors now. Not now. But it wasn't a car bringing a visitor. It was an old hearse with maybe a half dozen small men hanging from the sides. At least, that's what it looked like. The hearse screeched to a stop. The men jumped off and stared at her, their eyes glowing with a soft yellow light, like cat's eyes. She watched with horror as they disappeared into the house. An instant later, they were back, lifting something into the hearse. Then they drove off at high speeds, wheels squealing, the gravel in the driveway flying in all directions. At that moment, the nurse came in to say that Jim Brand had died. The end. So it's. I mean, I've heard that in so many different ways before, and I just really love the idea of death kind of coming in before the actual death happens. You know, seeing a specter in any way is just always creepy to me. You know, I also like, there's one I think in the first book where it talks about a guy seeing death in a town, and he's like, hey Dad, give me your keys, give me the keys to the truck, I'm gonna drive into the city, death will never find me there. And then death comes to the father, and he was like, I was surprised to see him in town today. It's so funny because I have a meeting with him in the city this afternoon. No, it's just those always are fun little romps. I like those.
Yeah.
And which one did you choose for us today, Christopher?
So I had one that I was going to read, and since we have come back and started talking to this, I've actually switched it. The one I was going to read was what the hell was it called? Oh, sorry, it was called Clinkety Clink, which I found that I think the ones with some of the worst names and not necessarily the more spooky pictures usually were a better rounded story.
Interesting.
But you had actually described a story that was almost exactly like it.
Son of a bitch, I'm sorry.
Yeah, son of a bitch. And that was the one that was particularly ruined by the audiobook version also, where basically a lady dies. She has no family, and the gravedigger goes to bury her, and essentially steals the coins off her eyes, and her eyes are stuck from rigor mortis, wide open. And it's kind of like the Telltale Heart, where he goes home and like the wind is really picking up and howling, and like he can hear the coins jingling around in the tin box that he put them in.
Yeah.
And then eventually he can hear the woman calling through the wind to him, like, who has my money? Who has my money? And you had that other story that was like,
just delicious.
Who has my something? Who has
my liver?
Who has my liver? I was like, oh, well, I'm not fucking doing that story.
Those are kind of common, aren't they?
It's a little bit common. And
it was bit off himself.
It was the same thing though. At the end, it was like, so the door flies open. She comes in and her eyes are wide open, but she can't see. It's like she's blind. She's like, oh, who has my money? Who has my... You have my money! And that's... but in the audiobook version, it's like in the parts where it's supposed to be like creepy, he does kind of a little bit of a voice for the lady. And she's like, who has my money? And then but he also does like it, and it does spell it out in the story. Like the wind sounds like, and then the wind picked up, and he goes on, and just like I'm laughing my ass off when he's doing this. But it definitely ruined that story for me.
There's one about a dog or something like that, where it's got the most asinine line. Oh, here it is. It's called the Wendigo. Oh, and Wendigo. It's I like that story, but there's Dafago, it called Dafago, and he just he does such a jackass job of reading that and making it feel scary. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. So what did you decide on? What did you fall on?
So the one that I'm going to do instead is Rings on Her Fingers. And that's from More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Excellent.
Yeah. Daisy Clark had been in a coma for more than a month when the doctor said that she had finally died. She was buried on a cold summer day in a small cemetery about a mile from her home. May she always rest in such peace, her husband said. But she didn't. Late that night, a grave robber with a shovel and a lantern began to dig her up. Since the ground was still soft, he quickly reached the coffin and got it open. His hunch was right. Daisy had been buried wearing 2 valuable rings, a wedding ring with a diamond in it, and a ring with a ruby that glowed as if it was alive. The thief got down on his knees and reached into the coffin to get the rings, but they were stuck fast on her fingers. So he decided that the only way to get them off was to cut off her fingers with a knife. But when he cut into the finger with the wedding ring, it began to bleed, and Daisy Clark began to stir. Suddenly she sat up. Terrified, the thief scrambled to his feet. He accidentally kicked over the lantern, and the light went out. He could hear Daisy climb out of her grave. As she moved past him in the dark, he stood there, frozen with fear, clutching the knife in his hand. When Daisy saw him, she pulled her shroud around her and asked, "Who are you?" When the grave robber heard this corpse speak, he ran. Daisy shrugged her shoulders and walked on, and never once looked back. But in his fear and confusion, the thief fled in the wrong direction. He pitched headlong into her grave, fell on the knife, and stabbed himself. While Daisy walked home, the thief bled to death. And scene.
Ooh. That's a spooky one. I like the fact that they left open what is going to happen when Miss Daisy gets back home.
Obviously, she's going to eat her husband's brains.
That makes sense. And I like that this is the way that Ed Gein reached his end. Is that he died in a horrible grave by killing himself. No, I'm kidding.
Short of what he deserves.
Yeah, pretty much. So in the Hollywood version of that, though, when he kicked over the lantern, it would have fallen into the grave, shattered, lit her dress on fire, and then she would have rose up out of the grave. He would have freaked out, spun around, and she would have walked on all
On fire.
aflame. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's what I thought it was going to happen.
Is your interpretation that she is she's the living dead, or that she is actually she was still in a coma and like that just kind of brought her out of it? For me, I interpreted
That is pretty
as
simple.
She hadn't actually suffered brain death, and she was still alive when they buried her, which is terrifying in itself. They just
would do that. They would sadly do that. They were real dumb back then. There were stories of people being buried and them finding claw marks on the things. They even I don't know if this is true or not, but they at one point enabled bells to be rung from the grave.
Wow.
Like there would be bells on the grave, and then a line all the way down to the casket.
No way.
Because there was some weird plague-ish type thing that would make them seem like they were dead for like 6 days, and people were dumb back then and didn't know how to take a pulse, and they would be like, well, might as well shove them in the dirt, and that would be it. And they wouldn't be able to. So how many times does that happen when you're like, we should install bells?
Also,
we're really bad at this.
What study was done where they found a bunch of claw marks on the inside of graves? Like, well, let's dig up a couple of graves today. I'm just curious. I just want to see what's happened.
Maybe it was some good-hearted grave robbers, and they were like, oh my God. These people were still alive, and now, see, I'm not going to give my name, but I'd like to report that shit has been going down. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how I know. I don't want to. I'm no hero. I'm no hero.
I'm no hero.
Listen.
I just got a bunch of rings, okay?
And I don't want to be freaked out anymore. My buddy, he fell into an open grave, stabbed himself. The girl wasn't dead.
He accidentally kicked over the lantern, set the grave on fire first, so he fell right into it like he was falling into hell. I like to think of it as more of like they dug up these coffins because there's somebody who like went to bury a family member and then came home and was like, where are my keys? And like obsessed about it for like a week and just like, God damn it, I'm pretty sure I buried it. And then just like dug it up like, oh God, look at all these claw marks. And she didn't have the keys.
Oh, it must have been in that person I operated on right before the horrible accident. Yeah, no.
Grave robber by night, OBGYN by day.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Real horrible stuff. All of the different stories that we've been talking about. I don't know if it's just the fact that this is 20 years later, but it's like we said, they're not horrifying. I guess we've seen worse on TV, and in movies and stuff like that since then. I mean, kids see worse all the time. But there's, I got to tell you about this article that I found. It was written in '93. I found it in the Chicago Tribune, September 20th, 1923, entitled, "Who is Alvin Schwartz and why do parents want to ban his books?" Now, I'm pretty sure banned. Yeah, they want to put it together in a really nice three book set. No, I'm pretty sure that was how it was written. So I think they got that one wrong. And it says his nightmarish tales top hit lists because critics say they're too ghoulish for kids.
Wow. Also, what hit lists are being published in libraries for kids to read?
No, I mean, not the hit lists. These, People for the American Way made a list of books coming under criticism by parent groups across the country, and his books at the time fell from the 92-93 year, fell first, second, and fifth for these ones that they really wanted to get rid of. And they talk about Alan Schwartz is accused of reveling in gore and violence, glorifying the occult, Satanism, necrophilia, even cannibalism in his stories.
Wait.
I
Where
don't remember
is the necrophilia?
I agree. I don't remember any of that.
I feel like that's one of those like war on drugs things where like you take a couple of like bad cases and then you blow it completely out of proportion. You can make up whatever you want because
exactly. I mean, I don't even know if Satanism is. I mean, I guess dealing with ghosts. There's a very low bar.
There was nothing
for
about not even like a demon in this though.
No, I know. But I also like the order of this, glorifying occult, Satanism, necrophilia, even cannibalism. So fucking dead people, and worse, there's eating people.
Yeah, read the Bible.
Like, oh yeah, that's fine. Lazarus is. Jesus.
There's cannibalism in the Bible too.
Definitely. Many of which are variations on classic folklore that he had exhumed and polished up for young readers age 9 and older. Age 9. Yeah, I guess that would be right. And then there's this woman. She's a former elementary school teacher, Sandy Vanderberg. If these,
you get. Hey,
I'm gonna do it.
You doing it? You're doing the audio
for comedy. But this is for comedy.
You make it extra flamboyant.
If these books were movies, they'd be rated R because of the graphic violence. There's no morals to them. The bad guys always win, and they make light of death. This is a story called Just Delicious about a woman who... Oh, this is the one I was talking about. Just Delicious about a woman who goes to a mortuary, steals another woman's liver, and feeds it to her husband. That's sick.
That's, yeah, I'd say that's spot on.
Thank you.
Victoria
That's
Vanderberg or whatever her name was. All right. So I think we've read enough of these stories.
Yeah.
Pitch me your 30-second story to go into the fourth book.
Oh, wow. Geez, putting me on the spot.
But give it a
yes,
spin.
go ahead.
Give it a spin that isn't for kids in the 90s. It's for 30-year-olds today.
Okay. Give me a sec. Give me a second. Give me a second. All right. Oh, I got it. A guy started dating a woman.
And, you're actually doing like a full story. Okay, go ahead.
No. I'm just gonna.
No, please do.
A man starts dating a woman, and they meet on Tinder, and they both swipe right, and it seems like a match made in heaven, and she texts back. They have a wonderful relationship. They even meet one time in his favorite or her favorite. Restaurant or something like that. And then he keeps texting her after they meet. He's like, wait, she's not texting me back. She's ghosting me. And then it turns out she died 20 years earlier or something like that.
No, I don't even think you need the ending. If you're going to keep it spot on with Alvin Schwartz, I think you cut it off there.
There you go.
How about
you?
Jerry comes home cold with sweat. He cleans the blood off the bumper and the windshield. He quickly washes his hands once he gets inside, burns his clothes, goes upstairs. When he hears the doorknob shake downstairs. Who drove my Prius? Who drove my Prius? Then the doorknob to the bedroom rattles. Who drove my Prius? Who drove my Prius? Then he gets a text message that says, "You did."
And then also, you didn't tip me, man. You didn't tip me on the Uber app.
That's funny.
Oh wait, you can't do that.
No, you can't. Can't you tip on Uber?
You can tip on Lyft. I don't think you can tip on Uber. Uber's
Really?
a dick.
Uber is a dick. Uber almost made me late for my job interview on Wednesday.
Oh,
yeah,
bad Uber.
Yeah,
Uber bad. Am I right?
Well, that's the show, guys.
There's one thing that I want to read, and this has always been my favorite thing. This gave me creeps because I can't believe they included it. It's in the third book. It's very near the end, and it's called "You May Be the Next." And I remember a variation of this, but it's a song. And I'm sure that most people remember this. I'm going to sing it in my best, what's it called? The Haunted Mansion voice.
Okay.
Did you ever think as the hearse goes by that you may be the next to die? They wrap you up in a big white sheet from your head down to your feet, and the worms crawl in and the worms crawl out in your stomach and out your snout, and your eyes fall out and your teeth decay, and that is the end of a perfect day.
Very nice.
That was horrifying to me because it really brought into sharp relief the fact that there is life and there is death, and that I am going to be one of those people someday. And there's a great quote from the I just want to finish up with that article. The things that these stories help children deal with reality by putting faces on what they're afraid of. The things children fear don't go away just because they can't read about them. It's a tragic mistake to deprive a child of a book that will allow them to face and discuss the things that make them afraid. Repressing those fears only makes them more afraid. And I think there's actually a lot of truth to that.
No, totally. And I think that we are living in a society that is growing in the sense that we allow children to grow up without knowledge or fear of death in a lot of ways. Which is something that we haven't seen throughout history, where children have always seen it and known it. So I don't know, that I think that makes for an interesting discussion of is that okay for society?
Well, and I think there's a lot of things that you have to discuss with a child, or you have to expose a child, that people are more and more trying to prevent them from. I mean, it's been going on.
Yeah, but now we got the X Games.
The extreme games, or the we're going to cut these out of things. We're going to X them out of.
I meant X Factor.
With Joe Rogan. He'll get down to the meat of everything. No, I mean, they've been trying to ban books for years and years. They've been trying to ban, they're just now banning To Kill a Mockingbird in Mississippi. For some reason, because of the N-word or something like that. People weren't allowed to be a catcher in a rye because I think there's nudity or something
also,
talked about it.
Either Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn. I can never tell the two apart.
Probably both. Yeah. N-word Jim was in both of them.
Yes, that's true.
I think. Anyway.
Also, same time
scary
period.
Stories.
Paul Frees, that's the voice of the guy from the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That guy's great. I just wanted to also talk at the end of these books. There's some amazing notes and sources, sort of like a bibliography, on the way that he developed these stories. Fascinating stuff about. I mean, I would definitely suggest. I picked up the entire series, and this isn't a commercial form. It's just a nice, fun thing to have from my childhood. But there's so many different little notes on here to talk about the origins. I mean, there's one that talks about the there's the girl that turns up being, she's been dead for 20 years. She died at that bus stop, whatever. That's actually, or no, the appointment one that I talked about, where Death was planning to meet him in the city anyway. That's apparently a something from Damascus, hundreds of years old.
Interesting.
Apparently, yeah, maybe thousands. I don't know. It's fascinating to understand that these are not just little things that he came up with. He just interpreted them from so many different folklore sources over the years, and I really love that.
Thanks, folklore, for letting us experience the same stories over and over again in different ways,
horrifying us for decades.
I will say this last note about Alvin Schwartz in my research after I read a couple of these stories. Interestingly enough, he also wrote some of the Superman and Batman comic strips.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
which were horrifying and chilling. Also,
Remember
he wrote
when
he wrote a
Superman
book
ate that guy's
called
face?
The Blow Top.
The blow top?
Yeah, I think we all know what that was about. A kettle. Okay, so what? How you rating this now that we've re-experienced this? Where is that place? And also, do you feel like this is worth keeping in your memory?
This is absolutely worth keeping in my memory. Even if see, that's the funny thing about reading these again. It's not made for me. It's made for 9-year-old me. It was
totally.
Absolutely, I am probably better off for it, but I know that I had a couple of years when I was really young where I was horrified of the dark. So, I don't know if this helped it, hurt it, whatever, but I still like scary stories. So it put me on whatever path I'm at now, and I'm happy to be here. 9 out of 10 livers from me.
Okay. I see. I see how you came at it. I'm kind of approaching my scoring a different way, and it's funny because livers was definitely the scoring thing I was going to use also. I 100% agree with you that I feel like this was meant for young Chris, and I appreciate experiencing this, and I absolutely think that this belongs in my memory. But it's not for me now. I would say that the stories don't hold up, but the illustrations do. So if I'm scoring it that way, I would give this 6 out of 10. Still pulsating livers. I don't know what this pulsator. I don't know what livers do. I think they just sit there. All right,
they got to do. They got to do something in there, gooey, grimy something.
Yeah.
With the worms crawling in and out of it.
All day long, in and out. Make up your fucking mind.
Well, they're going out to poop and then eat more of you.
That is kind of them.
Oh God. Well, no, I'm glad we jumped back into these, especially during such a spooky time of Halloween. These were fun to read over again and realize that horror has no power over me anymore.
I'm afraid of nothing.
Ha ha ha! Except for the Saw movies, cannot watch those.
Wow.
I went into the
Still Pinocchio for me. It's horrifying.
Oh, and you were absolutely
Monstrous.
right. I'm glad you brought that back up. It's not Stromboli sells him to the dude who drives the carriage. The carriage driver. That's the bad guy.
No, but
who runs that whole thing.
To your defense, I mean, it's just one pedophile face to the next pedophile face.
Absolutely. They're trading back and forth,
Yeah.
No, I went to Halloween Horror Nights down here in at Universal Studios, and I was fine with every single one of the there's like 7 or 8 horror mazes or whatever, and the one that fucked me up was the Saw one, because there's bodies dangling on chains. There's buzz saws, which I cannot stand any Saw in a movie.
Really?
I saw
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre a couple of years ago, or years and years ago, and A New Beginning, the sequel, A New Hope. But there was this girl
where Luke
who was
gets
like,
hand cut off on the bandsaw.
"Damn it! You're supposed to operate machinery with proper guards on."
You're supposed to go to Taji's house and get this bandaged.
But this girl is like 5 inches away from a chainsaw, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't fucking stand that. So every single time there was even a fake saw near me, I was like, oh God, no, don't turn on. I don't want to be cut in half.
Well, were you playing that Until Dawn game with Girl on Couch and I? When you have to decide which friend gets the saw on a track, and if you don't decide, it just cuts them both in half.
That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. Yeah, no, that's and just great graphics in that. That was fun.
It's a well done game.
It is. It's a fun game. Rami Malek gets cut in half in the version that we saw.
Nice.
That's always fun. Mr. Robot getting what he deserves.
Change of batteries. All right, well, join us next time when we discuss other spooky things, like, are spiders still scary?
I don't know. Are they? We'll talk about Desert Storm. Was it really that much of a storm, or more of a
Just
weekend?
a cool name for a war.
Yeah, and yo-yos, the silent killers. I don't know. Maybe.
Stop naming them cool things like the fireball or giving them brains. All right. I'm Christopher Hampson.
I'm AJ Hamilton.
And that's Girl on Couch.
Yeah. Hi, bye. You can follow us on what's it called? Out of Memory Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and we are at Out of Memory Pod at gmail.com if you want to send in any things that you want to send us.
Ambiguous. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. And cut.
And scene.
Stopping.
And